Welcome to Nursing Lyfe 101, the most important nursing class you never got to take in nursing school. We will be traversing different objectives like interviewing, what to do in nursing school, boundaries, burnout, and so much more. If this interests you, I hope you are taking good notes because class is now in session. Hello, and welcome to Nursing Lyfe 101. We're so excited to have you here with us as we dive into the world of nursing, sharing our experiences, insights, and a little bit of fun along the way. I'm Christopher, and I couldn't be happier to introduce my co-host,
Colby. Hello, guys. My name is Colby. Together, we're going to be bringing you guys real stories, practical tips, and discussions about all things nursing. Whether you're a fellow nurse or just curious about the life behind the scrubs, we're thrilled to have you join us.
So essentially, this is going to be our first podcast, and we have to have introductions to who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously know our names, but I guess let's just kind of start out with the whole how long have you been in nursing question.
Yeah, we'll start off with the basics. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I guess you can go first.
Okay, I'll go first. So I have been a nurse for just over 10 years now, which is wild, thinking about how fast that's gone by, but I graduated in 2014, and yeah, that's been doing it at the bedside, too.
Yeah, that's insane.
Which is very rare these days. It's like the rarest of the rare to be at the bedside for 10 years. But that's the kind of crazy I am. And then, do you want to...
10 years.
10 years, yeah.
So this is 2024.
Mm-hmm.
You started in 2014.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're closer to 5 years now. Or, sorry, 11 years now. 5 years. We're closer to 11 years now. Because it would have been May. So, like, we're like 6 months. 6 months away from May. Today.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I have not been nursing that long, and I haven't been at bedside that long either. I have been a nurse since 2019, so that would be 5 years.
Mm.
And it will not be 6 years soon. It will be in October that I will be going to 6 years. So I just got my 5th year over with. And I've only been in bedside for 4 of those years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the last year you were changing it up a little bit.
I did change it up. I am now an assistant nurse manager, unless you consider my side hustle bedside.
No, I think that's different. I think that's another fun part.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that's bedside at all?
No.
I still have some type of clinical,
you do, but
critical thinking.
Not in the traditional sense of being in the hospital setting.
Okay.
So I think it's like, yes, you're still doing like one-to-one patient care. That counts definitely. But I think it's so different. So why don't we talk about the different things we've done within our nursing careers. So
okay.
Like you were talking about your side hustle, so tell them about that.
Yeah. So my side hustle is IV therapy. I mix IV vitamins, and I guess it's like a wellness spa. We're slowly adding other stuff. We do Semorlin and semaglutide for like weight loss and weight management.
Yeah, you guys have really grown a lot, I think, since it first started opening, at least. And like you do the IV drip, you do the IV drips. You even like go to people's houses and do it too, which is cool. You have like a mobile call.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said the semaglutide, like vitamins, and I've learned a lot too through you doing that. Like when last year there's a couple of us that all work in the hospital, go on hikes together, and I gave myself a concussion when I walked into a branch and I had a terrible headache. And Christopher actually was like, come in and get a magnesium infusion, it'll help. And it did. It was awesome.
Well, and I don't think a lot of people know the benefits of just having vitamins in general,
Yeah.
but like it is cool because you get to experience in terms of nursing this like totally different approach to like healing and like wellness. It's just totally different.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think when you're in nursing school, you hear like, oh, what a good career. Like you can do so much within that, like, being a nurse. And I think it's a good example of showing like something you could do outside of just working in the hospital that's still like patient care, patient forward care. But it's different and changes it up. It's a lot, I don't know. To me, from the outside, it looks a lot more fun some days. Okay, but then like in the hospital, what are you doing?
Yeah. Transplant. So solid organ abdominal transplant, primarily kidney, pancreas, and livers. Primarily adults. We're branching out into peds. Being, I did do air quotes for those that are just listening. For those that are 16 and older, but of adult weight, so that we don't have to worry about any emergency medicine being having to convert per weight and stuff like that. And like I said, I'm no longer at bedside. I did dabble a little bit in vascular surgery when I first started. It was actually the reason why I came to the health system that we're currently working at. But after that, COVID hit because 2020 was a thing. And we lost the whole vascular thing and was in cardiac for a little bit.
Yeah, and that's how we met. So I primarily have been working in cardiology my whole career with a few little bonus things offshoots of my career. But Christopher and I met on the cardiology floor when we were for a short time working together. So yeah, cardiology, most of my career at the bedside. If not all of my career, depending on how you want to look at it. But but different experiences. So so mostly cardiology. I got my first job out of college was on a acute cards floor. I worked there for a couple of years and did my own style of travel nursing, not purposefully, but I'm not from where we currently live, and I moved back home after 2 years of living where we are. And I'm from like about 12 hours away from here. So I moved home, worked in like surgical cardiology, post cardiothoracic surgeries, in a step down unit from the surgical ICU. And then only stayed there for about a year and came back to where we live, but at a different health system. So I've pretty much been there since 2017. I did a small stint where I left and did some travel nursing during COVID. So I got to experience a lot of different things during those 3 years. Primarily, the first 2 years was just working COVID contracts, and then my third year I was doing float pool. So I did pretty much everything when I was in the float. We were in the ED, we did trauma, we did women's health. I did get to do some more cardiology things, which was great.
Wait,
those skills.
Wait, time out. Did you just say you did ED?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like the sense of like I was an ED nurse. I was mostly there as like floating helping hands.
Like kind of the
getting stuck in borders.
Type.
Yeah. So I mean, we had like one section where it was borders. I'd be there sometimes. Sometimes I'd just be floating around passing meds for people. Sometimes I'd be transferring patients to their units if they got beds in inpatient units. I was kind of like a jack of all trades situation when I was in the ED, but yeah, that kind of stuff too, which I actually really enjoyed ED nursing, and before, when I made my decision to come back to the bedside, I considered actually applying to the ED. But ultimately, cardiology has my heart in a twisted way, and I have come back again. So when I came back to the current health system that we work at, I took on a charge nurse role, which a lot of hospitals, I've been charge nurse at multiple hospitals, and while as a traveler, while staff at other hospitals, um, the way ours does it is a little bit different, and we're kind of like a unit-based leader, and we have a little more responsibility and leadership than your traditional charge nurse when you think about it. So it's a little bit different, a little bit more involved, but that's about what I do right now.
So, you know, with those specialties that you've kind of got to dabble a little bit into, like, is there, and we'll talk more about this next week, but is there one, you said ED,
Mm-hmm.
is there one that you're like, nah?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
definitely. There's
We'll talk.
probably two, but we'll save that for
Oh,
next week.
there's two.
There's two. So
Okay.
look forward to that.
I'm interested because I don't have, I mean, I've been in two specialties.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess here's a weird question that I just came up with. Do you think that makes you a better nurse that you've kind of seen different specialties? Are you like a jack of all trades, master of none, or is nursing more of master of one?
Mm,
You know.
yeah. I definitely don't. I think the only thing that I'm really comfortable in is obviously cardiology after 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think I don't think it made me um, a worse nurse to have experience in other specialties. I definitely think, like, while we are specialized, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have a cardiac patient that ends up with a colostomy. Like, that happens. So it does kind of give you an advantage and makes you a more, like, knowledgeable. You can help other coworkers with things like, oh, here, I've actually done this before. Let me show you this or whatever. So I definitely think, yeah, it's definitely beneficial. Makes you a little more well-rounded.
Did you ever like do more than just? And I know for a matter of fact that the unit you work on now, it has a very high acuity. So calling it an acute level floor is kind of interesting because you do have prostacyclin drips, you do have LVADs, and I mean you take care of those, and you downsize the assignment to kind of reflect more of like an intermediate level
Mm-hmm.
of care. Did you just, when you were traveling around, did you just do acute, or did you venture into ICU at all?
Excuse me, not ICU, but I did primarily PCU and MU floors, so intermediate
Okay.
care. Yeah. And then of course acute care. I mean, it was pretty rare though because the hospital that I did the flow pool at was very cognizant of my PCU MU skills because I worked there during COVID, and you had to, if you were working on the COVID unit, they required you to have the MU and PCU experience. And I worked there for so many contracts that I became um like known, I guess is not the word I'm looking for, but they had a good understanding of my capabilities, and I actually was put into like charge nurse roles in that hospital as well, just because they knew who I was, what I was capable of doing,
Mm-hmm.
and all that. So rarely was I like on a med surge floor. It was, I think I probably only worked med surge a handful of times while I was there, actually. Yeah.
Huh. So, okay, you were able to do all this PCU kind of progressive care, MU type,
hmm
intermediate level workings. Have you thought about ICU? I mean, there's CCU, there's TCV.
hmm
For those that may not know those acronyms, coronary care,
Corny care, yeah.
excuse me, and thoracic cardiovascular.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes they're called CVICUs, the
Oh.
thoracic cardiovascular ICUs, in other hospitals, other institutions. Um, of course I thought about it. Of course I did. But at the same time, I think, well, there's a couple factors that went into why I haven't. But I think I really love to teach, and I think I've gotten so comfortable in my current workplace setting that it allows me to spend a lot of time teaching, like our new grad nurses, and other staff, travelers. I think it's something I enjoy so much that if I was moving into an ICU setting, like I would be back in the learning seat, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Learning is fun. And I mean, I'm still constantly learning every day, but it's not off the table for me. I actually was just talking about it yesterday, like considering maybe moving into the ICU at some point. But I don't know. I just really like where I'm at, to be honest. I'm comfortable where I'm at. And nursing is uncomfortable enough that like sometimes you are like, I'm good here.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I'm perfectly
There's also
fine.
like a sense of like, well, again, like it goes back to me being like you're back in the learning seat for a little bit, and I think there's also like a sense of seniority when you've been somewhere long enough, and like people look up to you, especially in the charge nurse role. I mean, you're kind of like the coordinator of the floor, all your whole shift, and it's for someone with a classic nursing type A personality. It's hard to take the back rein,
Oh
like
my
take
God.
take the back seat and let go of the reins. At least for me. I like where I'm seated, thank you.
I am perfectly fine.
I'm perfectly fine here.
Well, I mean, it would be interesting. I guess you would probably go more CCU.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so we can I'll explain the difference a little bit. The coronary care unit, at least where we work, is more of like the medicine side of like ICU cardiology, and the TCV or CVICU at other hospitals is more like the surgical side. And then some hospitals, depending on their size, might have them combined, and they could be called something else. But in reference to what we're talking about, the CCU is more like the medicine side, which is like kind of the big sister of the unit that I work on now. And the TCV or CVICU is the surgical side. So like right after surgery, someone got a valve fixed or an LVAD placed, they would go to that other ICU. We kind of manage people in the medicine side who already have these things, and whether that be having an LVAD and they just come in really sick and they need cardiac meds or whatever to kind of boost them back up or tune them up, as we like to say, versus like getting something. But we do small procedures too on our medicine side. We anything that's like transcutaneous or like non-invasive, or minimally invasive, I should say, like a pacemaker, they'll come to us. Like transcutaneous valves, they'll come to us. Anything that's like a little poke and they go through an artery, they'll come to us.
A little poke.
Oh, just a little poke, just a little stick.
That's kind of an important organ to little poke.
Just a little. That's how I like to explain it to the patients. Yeah. Just a little poke.
Give them this weird. We say that for putting in an IV. Oh, you're just gonna feel a little poke.
Like, and we're laughing like that in our head too.
Right.
No, just kidding.
So, you were talking about you enjoy teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about like actually doing like a clinical, like being a clinical instructor or something like that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's so tricky in the teaching space. I would like to, but the thing is I with my current degree, it's been 10 years since I graduated, and a lot of those credits have expired, and a lot of schools require you to have a master's to do clinical engineering, clinical teaching.
Wow, we're going into engineering here.
I think some of the community colleges near us, there's less restrictions, but a lot require masters. I haven't looked that deeply into it, to be honest. Right. It is something that's crossed my mind.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of at least what I've always been told and what my manager has told me is that you can always teach the degree under you. So if you have a bachelor's, you can teach an associate's. If you have an associate's, you can actually teach LPNs, I think.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
But, yes, you would have to do the master's in terms of at least for the bachelor's degree.
Yeah. So I think
Are you trying to say you don't want to teach ADN nurses?
No, not at all.
Putting a big rumor out there right now.
No, not at all. That is not true. This is fake news. I totally would. I just haven't gotten past the surface level of research to do it.
That's
you
fair.
know, I think the other thing is I'm super involved in multiple subcommittees at the health system that we work at, which ties me up. Like I have like 3 standing meetings a week on top of my 3 shifts, and they're not always on days that I'm working. So it's like, oh, I have to come into the hospital for an hour, or if it's like a WebEx, like a virtual meeting, I love those days. But I am like, I'm pretty tied up in a couple of projects right now. And sometimes I just get a little overwhelmed with what's on my plate. But it is on the differential. Like, I would love to see in the next like 2 years, like getting a clinical teaching job. Yeah. What about you?
About which?
What do you?
What,
you don't want to teach? You don't. I mean, you have talked about having too much on my plate. I really can't even say. That's like a joke when I say it in front of Christopher, because Christopher has the fullest plate I've ever seen. I'm actually constantly telling him he needs to like cool his jets.
Cool my jets. Well, today I did absolutely nothing. Just FYI.
I'm very proud of you.
I mean,
you deserve it.
So, but no, for real. Like I have appreciated the fact that people do. My manager teaches clinicals on the unit, and I do enjoy it. And I occasionally, she'll have to be in a meeting, and she's done it once. I say occasionally; she's only done it once.
Like, watch
my kids. Yeah, make sure they don't do anything crazy. And it was fun. It was, and I mean, I do teach right now. I teach a phlebotomy class.
Yeah.
And that's fun, and it's all kinds of people. It's nurses. It's techs.
Yeah, you get people from all over the hospital.
Yeah. And like it's a joint effort. So there's a phlebotomist that teaches the process, and then I'm kind of the regulations and rules and boring stuff. So
the boring stuff side. Ugh.
Yeah, and but I do get to be the one that's like, hey. Now you can stick an arm.
He gives the okay. Yeah. You got it.
So that is fun, and I've interestingly enough in the process of me actually going through and teaching is that I've realized there are just various methods of teaching in order to reach a broad audience. You have to teach in different ways, even in the same in the same class. Like you have to say an example that's red, and then you have to turn it to orange and turn it back to yellow. Like it's just because people's lenses are so different.
Yeah, it's like a foreign language.
It is.
To some people, and then to others, they'll learn one way. You just have to learn how to be flexible with teaching for sure.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. Like we had, I think, 11 Clin 1s is what we call it at our health system, but they're just new grad nurses that started this summer, and everybody learns different, everybody learns at a different pace, everybody absorbs information differently. So yeah, it was a interesting summer to teach that many at once, but it was fun. And they're all off orientation doing really well right now, actually.
That's the
they're
best
like killing it, honestly.
That's the best part. As A&M, like I've learned so much about how they're like, yes, orientation is great, but it's when you get off of orientation. Like it's so important to make sure they feel supported, make sure that they are not like, and I mean, because you make mistakes, right? But as a new grad nurse, you have to be okay to be like, I made a mistake. What do I do now? Like,
yeah. And then as like a preceptor, you have to, carry that, like being open and approachable, and like take on, like, okay, let's examine what you did. Let's figure it out together. Let's, look at it and see what we could have done better, how we could improve that. Like you have to be supportive and protective of them, because I mean, I don't know if you remember, but when I was a new grad, I was constantly second guessing myself. And I was like, hey, this is right? Even if I knew it was right, I'd go up to my preceptor and be like, so I'm going to do this and this and this. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, so that's good. And they're like, yeah,
Go somewhere.
Yeah, go. You're like, okay, I'm going. You're like, okay, I knew I was right. They just need a lot of like confidence boost building and boosting, all that.
Well, and I mean, because it's people's lives.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yes, majority of the times, any medication that you can give, at least orally,
Mm-hmm.
unless you royally screw up.
Well, there's always room for making mistakes. We don't want that to happen, but you gotta.
Right.
That's why you get precepted. You don't just graduate, take your boards, and get put on the floor.
There's a normal like cadence to a podcast, and most podcasts have some type of like middle part or like a little segment breaker. So we have a segment breaker. I joked and said that it's kind of like the lunch break or like in between classes. you get to kind of take a moment and think about something other than the topics that we are discussing as our main points. But we're going to go into what is called Nursing Wins and Woes, where we share the highs and lows of life in scrubs. Every shift brings its own set of victories and challenges. So this is where we get real about the moments that make us love our job and the ones that test our patience. Whether it's a big win, a small triumph, or a relatable woe from the floor, we're here to celebrate and commiserate together. And, oh yeah. So I guess I will start. As much as people truly like see me as this perfectionist, unfortunately there are times where I have kind of like messed up with some stuff. I do.
You wouldn't know it
I'm not perfect
unless you saw it with your own eyes.
Yeah. I'll act like I'm perfect all the time. But there's some small ones, like, for example, we do a nurse-driven protocol for heparin, and every 6 hours we're supposed to check the level if it's not therapeutic. And I had, like, forgotten to actually put in the order and remembered, like, 8 hours after. And I was like, ugh. But, luckily the person was therapeutic. But that was like kind of one little thing. But I think the major one where I'm like, oh yeah, this is really bad and really could have been very, very bad if things weren't caught. I left a Dilaudid PCA in a patient's room. Or in the bed.
In the bed.
In the bed.
With the patient.
In the bed with the patient. Luckily, the patient was a nurse and was like, this isn't supposed to be here. But I didn't put we call it be safe. But,
what would I say? Opportunity for improvement.
Yes.
Yeah. I was saying this earlier, every hospital has some kind of version of this where it's like if something adverse happens, you want to like analyze the problem, come up with suggestions to fix it, and like a greater group also will look at the situation, but you just like submit it. It's just a safety check basically so that it prevents problems from happening again.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't do it. But it was just a simple thing. I had worked night shift, working a night shift, in the morning you're just ready to go to bed.
Yeah. You're lucky you made it. That's on working night shift. You're lucky you made it through.
That's all that really mattered at the moment.
You and the patient. No,
yeah, right. And so I was trying to be a nice nurse. I was new and I was off of orientation. I just thought about this. I was trying to make sure that day shift was set up to be nice and,
they had a new stock of syringes.
Right. And so I was like, we'll just switch to PCA and we'll do the weights at the same time. And in the midst of us, and I will be honest, I had forgotten how to do the PC. So we had to troubleshoot for a little bit.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, and then I had put the PCA syringe into the actual bed and walked off.
And that's on night shift brain.
Yeah, that's on night shift brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
And they didn't tell me until I came back the next shift.
Like, whoops.
I was
We
like,
left that in the bed.
I'm like, what? Well, y'all could have called me.
I mean, that's not that's bad, but it's only bad because it could have gone worse.
It could have gotten real worse.
But the first time I heard the story, I said, oh, well, I mean, it's not all on your shoulders. Like, you were with another nurse, like, you both you signed off the new syringe, like, she probably went right back in after you left and grabbed it and was like, oh crap, and had to waste it with the charge nurse or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely was a woe.
It was. I mean, and I definitely remember, like, the nurse that I handed off to, the room, the patient.
It's burned into your memory.
It is engraved.
Oh, goodness.
What about you?
All right, so my woe. We have an influx of imaging.
I'm telling you, these SAT words.
Okay, so our doctors have been ordering so many cardiac MRIs, and the wait times on these MRIs are absolutely obscene. Like, patients are just sitting in their rooms waiting for an MRI, at minimum, cardiac MRI, 3 days. Minimum 3 days.
That's crazy.
It's
3 days.
insane.
Why?
Get this. This is crazy because Christopher didn't know this. We have 2.5 MRIs allocated for inpatient services.
That's crazy.
2.5. The other half of that one half is for research.
So 3.5 days.
Yeah, 3.5 days a week from that one machine. That's what it accumulates to our use of it.
Yeah, averages out.
Out of 7 days. That's not enough. I mean, we work at a level 1 trauma center. Like, you can imagine the amount of patients that get admitted every single day.
600 plus beds. 600
plus beds and growing. We're building out one of our tower. We have like 3 more floors.
29 beds each.
Yeah, so that's even more patients, and they're coming to us. We're a huge facility, and they're having to wait for procedures and major surgeries until these MRIs get done. And I mean, there's been instances where we're sending people home without getting these stuff done, and like, we'll just have to schedule you outpatient.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And I just heard actually this week that the outpatients are like 3 months. They're scheduling them 3 months out.
3 months.
So
that's
the ones,
insane.
yeah. So like, so then the ones that we're like keeping, it's like, well,
you might as well stay here another day.
Yeah, the ones that are staying 3 days minimum. Let me remind you, 3 days minimum. I had someone wait like a full five day work day because they also only do it Monday through Friday.
That's expensive.
Not on the weekends.
That's ridiculous.
And that's not MRI imaging. That's the cardiac MRI, because you need a specific type of cardiac like radiologist that comes in and like looks at it while it's going on and decides whether or not they need more imaging in a certain area. But yeah, our health system is not a 24/7 health system. We work
as
Monday. Yeah, as funny as that sounds for being a hospital,
right?
But it's not 24/7 staffed in that way,
right?
Yeah, we kind of work Monday through Friday. So not us, but as far as like studies, procedures, specialized imaging, that kind of stuff is only Monday through Friday. So yeah, I've had a patient wait an entire like business week before, and they delayed their procedure. Like, I mean, the imaging level that they're getting, I mean, they can look at viability. It's like basically like a viability study, cardiac stress test. They can look at the inner workings of your valve. Yeah, so it takes a long time. I mean, I feel bad for these people. You know, some of our patients don't have insurance.
No.
So that happened with my win. So let me tell you about my win. I'm going to tell you about the win before Christopher tells you his win, because mine kind of goes with my woe. I had this patient, she didn't have insurance, and she had been waiting for her MRI, and they were like, okay, we're going to keep her here until 7:30 tonight, and we'll just discharge her late to see if we can get this MRI done, and if not, like, we'll just schedule as outpatient. That's unfortunate, but like, we really want to try. So, but she doesn't have insurance. We don't want to like rack up her days. So she'd already been here for 3 days. And first of all, I was saying this earlier, the cardiac radiologists, specialists, whatever they are, they don't stay until 7:30. So like basically if this doesn't get done by like 5 the latest, it's not getting done that day. So we're all like sweating, all right? Like we're like, geez, is this gonna happen or not?
Right.
And a miracle happened that day. They call us at like 3:30 and they're like, all right, we can get her down here. So I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I send the nurse in because I'm in charge. And I send the nurse in and she comes back to me. She's a new grad nurse and she's like, Colby, I have a problem. She has all these piercings and she has this one that she can't get out. I'm like, what? And it's the tragus, I think. This like little part of your ear for our camera. So they call us. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon. My nurse goes in there and she comes out and she's like, hey, so we have this problem. The patient has all these piercings and she got all of the jewelry out, but she has this one in what we think is the tragus. Like, I don't know what part of the ear this is. And she can't get it out. She said the last time she got it out, it took her brother and her sister-in-law and like a box of like work tools, like pliers from the toolbox to get it out. And it's been like 7+ years. And I was like, oh my God, we have such a small window to get this lady down there. This is bad. So I'm like, I'm bound and determined. I like go into our clean supply. I go and get some Kelly clamps, alligator clamps, whatever you want to call them. And I'm like, come on, let's go. So like me and the new grad nurse, we go in and like, I'm hooking her up in the front, hooking it up in the back, and I'm twisting it. And I all of a sudden just got it. It came out and I've never felt like such like pride and relief. And I was like, she's going to get the MRI.
Yay.
Woo! Like we were so hyped. We were so excited. I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Nuts that it takes that long.
And 2 Kelly clamps.
And 2 Kelly clamps. One on each side. Because it was just like spinning in her ear. I had to like get good grip on both sides.
Did you use like gauze?
No, I was nervous I was going to pinch her like skin. She was like,
that's
you're fine, just get it out.
Oh.
I was like, is it okay if I like break it?
Yeah,
I was
like, what if it broke?
I was afraid if the earring was gonna break, and she was like, "No, I've been meaning to change it out for a long time now." I'm like, "Yeah, 7.5 years ago."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my God, maybe you shouldn't put it back in."
Like I have to like.
It's like mine. I have like a thick tragus. I feel like, but I don't know. Pretty gross. Does that
what classifies that?
I don't know. I feel like the tissue just feels thick. I don't know what the thin one feels like either.
I'm just saying mine feels pretty thick too, but I don't know what.
I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know where the scale is. But yeah, that was my win.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, it's very hard to come back after that.
Yeah.
Like, why did I let you go first? I guess my win would definitely be just IV skills. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that is immediate gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like you and, being able to pull that, like, you get so much high when you see that flash of blood in a chamber that it's just like, oof.
You're like, yes, I did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was saying earlier, the last time we told this story, that Christopher is the fairy godfather of IVs. Like, if you can't get it, his staff is like, well, just find Christopher. He can put it in. He knows what he's doing. He's really good. And he is, because he actually is really good. And
it's just a fun skill.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one that I was like, in nursing school, I'm like, I'm going to get this.
Yeah. And funny enough, I mean, most of our listeners are probably work in healthcare in some form or fashion, but then they don't teach us IV skills in nursing school. Why don't they do that? Too much liability. That goes back to giving you all the puzzle pieces and you build the puzzle in that first year because you don't have any IV skills or phlebotomy skills. And I said this earlier, I think we're very fortunate enough to work for a healthcare system that really values the ancillary staff teams. And we have phlebotomy team, we have an IV team. A lot of hospitals don't have that anymore. No. The first hospital I ever worked at didn't have it, and nursing staff and the techs and the aides, they were phlebotomy and IV. And I had great IV skills at one point. The first 3 years out of nursing school, I could put an IV in anybody. Like, I mean, I work in cardiac, we have a lot of heart failure patients that are just so fluid-filled edematous that it's really hard to get an IV in a lot of them. I could do that today. I could not. I will own that because I work for a facility that has an IV team and I am a princess. Unfortunately.
I fully take advantage.
Yeah, I do. I exercise that right. Yeah.
Man, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, but you say you can't. You've done it. Yes, you.
I can if I need to.
Yeah.
I've put IVs in you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I can put an IV in a very healthy individual. And I'm going to wear that sticker on my chest. But
proudly,
if
proudly.
you're very edematous, I probably won't be able to hit you. Maybe in your foot, if you don't have...
Oh, God.
Well, I feel like no.
Some people's feet are...
Yeah. Again, if you have edematous feet, I'm not going to, obviously.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, hold on.
This is something that we want to continue to do, and we want to also include you in on this because you're nurses too, or going to be nurses, and you can have wins and woes in nursing school.
Yeah, we
so
want you guys to share your wins and woes with us, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Right.
Maybe we'll feature it on an upcoming episode.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It's very possible. You can email us at nursinglyfe101@gmail.com, and that's life with a Y, not an I.
I love that. Or you can tweet us. Same thing, Nurse Life, life with a Y, not an I, 101. And we're not saying, like, our whole name is not Life with a Y, not an I. We're just saying Nurse Life 101. And another thing you hear in nursing school, you learn more in your first year than you did probably in however long it took you to get through school.
100%.
Yeah, you learn it on the job.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Isn't that scary? Just letting you know.
So
it's
school's
okay.
unimportant, and just throw that away.
Yeah, you don't need to go to school. Be like those people from Florida during COVID who just bought their degree and passed the NCLEX somehow. It's basically what we're saying. It's totally fine. No.
It shows that it is.
Yeah, just kidding. We're joking. It's not. But there is something to say for the hands-on experience and the pure information download into your brain that first year. Like, to put all the pieces together. I would say nursing school gives you all the pieces to the puzzle. Your first year, 2 years out of school, you're putting the puzzle together. Truthfully.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I have not heard it that way, but I mean, yeah.
You're collecting pieces for however long you're in school, and then you walk out with a box full of puzzle pieces, and you're like, well, okay, let's put this together. Let's put it all together. You thought that you thought that that's what the NCLEX was? Like, you're like, I put it all together. I passed my boards. No.
Just kidding.
No. When you're putting it in action with real lives in your hands, that's putting the puzzle together.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about like education. I guess we probably should mention our educational
our backgrounds.
Yeah.
What routes we took, because there are so many different paths into nursing, and which is so cool because I think it makes it available to a wider range of people who wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to go to nursing school if there weren't so many different ways to do it.
Right.
So my course of action into nursing school was more traditional, if that's what you want to call it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I went to a 4-year school, liberal arts school. Got my BSN off the bat, but as we were just saying, there's a lot of different ways to go about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess really and truly that showed that you really wanted to go into nursing school. And there are so many different ways that you can do this, and I never really even thought about it. But, I started out as I graduated with a biology degree, so I went to school for 4 years and then decided I didn't want to actually pursue medical school. And got my associate's degree, which, I mean, it took me 6 years, but it's completely different.
Mm-hmm. Wait, actually, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting that you went and got your ADN.
Yeah.
Did you think about going like a master's program?
Yeah,
into
so
nursing.
yeah. I guess it kind of goes back to what you were saying in terms of instructing other people later on. I just didn't do my research. So if honestly, and as someone who has been in the shoes of I had that opportunity to do that, I would always tell someone to be like, just go get your master's degree.
Yeah.
Because then I had to go back and get my bachelor's, right?
Yeah, you kind of are doing it in like a little bit roundabout way.
Right.
But again, there's so many different paths to nursing. It's really hard to. It's like if you didn't have that information, like you said, like you wouldn't know. And you're like, oh, here's this way though. This is what works for me, and it worked for you.
It did, and but the thing was, like, I could have used the same amount of years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could have used 2 less years because I would have already had a master's degree and not had to go back and get a bachelor's degree.
That's true. So like what we're talking about, there's it's called something different at every school probably, but it's like a MEPIN or a master's straight into nursing. But if you can have a bachelor's degree in like anything else, and then if you decide you want to pursue nursing, there's programs where you go to nursing school. It's like an accelerated nursing school situation, and you get your master's, so you can do it in like 2.5 or 3 years.
I don't think I would have honestly, like, I've seen those that have done it now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would have liked it. I think there's an importance in terms of being an ADN. Like, I would like to kind of hear your take on this. Is an associate's degree nurse having 2 years of experience before that bachelor's degree nurse comes out? I really think it's important.
Yeah,
if used appropriately.
Yeah, if used appropriately, I think it gives those individuals like a advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Like you already have a lot of skills. An ADN nurse will graduate their ADN program before a BSN nurse, and you are getting those skills that I was talking about earlier with the puzzle pieces. Right. You're putting the puzzle pieces together way earlier. Right. Yeah, I think there is something to say to that.
Yeah. I do think it's important. I've hired those that have had a bachelor's degree before and come in and have a master's degree after their bachelor's in something else, and they've been great nurses. Mm-hmm. I have no problems with them as a nurse, but there's something to say about the clinical skills and the critical thinking that is necessary when. I also just think in terms of coming out of school, I had so much more clinical experience than most bachelor's degree nurses do.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think I totally agree with that for anybody that just like works on their degree and as far as bachelor's degree and then goes into nursing. I think the difference that you see a lot is like people who are working on their bachelor's degree, if they were working as like techs or like in some sort of way in the medical field, whether like it could be like phlebotomy or whatever. Even being a secretary in the hospital gives you a little bit more knowledge about how the system works. Right. If you were doing anything in the hospital system while you were also working on your bachelor's, or you have any kind of like history working in a hospital while you're working on your like accelerated master's program, you have a little you'll probably excel a little bit faster, maybe not as fast as an ADN nurse who really gets their hands wet super early, but feet wet, whatever the saying is, but
what is it's feet wet?
It's feet, yeah, I think it is feet. Okay. But I do think that's like the one like caveat to it is that like if you are more of a go-getter while you're working on the degree versus like you can just tell, like sometimes you get someone that's just freshly graduated and they're like deer in the headlights, and then you're like you get to know them a little bit and you find out like, oh, they just did school, like they were their degree or their bachelor's degree before their master's was like in science, and they're so smart, they're so intellectual, But then there's like that hands-on piece in nursing where I don't know why this just came to me, but it's almost like there's like a blue collar aspect to nursing. Is that weird to say?
Oh, interesting.
Where it's like, it's not all like facts and figures.
Okay, yeah.
As one would be if they were just doing the schooling part.
Yeah.
Where there's like a more personal level. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but in my brain, it kind of just flipped for some reason to like blue collar versus white collar. Like, but there's something to say to that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I get it because it is. It's very hands-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hands-on. It really is. And so with that hands-on, like, we hope to talk about this in later episodes, but like, what do you think in terms of experience while in school, other than like an MA or a CNA? Because I was a CNA.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in high school in 2011, and I graduated with a CNA, and so I worked in a nursing home for majority of my time, and then did home health stuff. So I was never actually in the hospital. But I'm saying all that to say, like, it did help in terms of like just being a little bit more personable. Like, you being in a book does not help you relate to people.
Yeah, and I think that's such a huge part of our job is being able to relate to somebody in that setting. Like, they're the patient. Like, everything is so foreign to them while they're sitting in that bed or they're sitting on that exam table or in that chair. And it's a huge part of our job as nurses to make them, it's like, I would argue to say one of the main parts of our job, to make the patient comfortable and connect with them on that personal level so that you can do all the things that need to be done to get them healthy and get them back to their regular scheduled lives.
100%.
Yeah, and I think, and again, and having that experience in any form or capacity, I mean, I'll even go as far as to say, like, I worked as a housekeeper at a nursing home through college. I started from the bottom, now I'm here. And I think just that interaction every day, I mean, I did a lot of things. My mom worked as like a director of an adult daycare. Like, she always at a nursing home, she was a social worker at a nursing home. So like, I had a lot of experience being exposed to that environment.
Yeah.
Like, I think that makes a big difference coming out of whatever degree program you choose.
That's fair. So do you think there's one specific non-CNA, non-MA like role?
Like, outside of what you would what you'd immediately think that would be helpful?
would like helpful.
Yeah, I can think of something that's not even healthcare related that I think would help somebody excel as a nurse. I don't even think you could guess what it is. But this is something a doctor said to my aunt who's a nurse. So when she graduated and was interviewing, he asked her.
The doctor asked her?
Asked her in her interview.
Okay.
Because she was working for a private practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
so that's a little bit different than like in a hospital.
Like,
yeah, no.
What
My aunt was a nurse and she was working at a private practice for women's health. So the doctor that interviewed her, and this is also like, goodness, like 25 years ago. Obviously now I don't necessarily think that a doctor is going to be participating in interviews. It's probably his nursing staff. But he asked her, he said, "Have you ever been a waitress?"
Oh, yeah. You know what?
And that, at first, it might seem like that might be a sexist question, but to the point that he was getting at was like, a waitress has to juggle many things at once.
Yeah.
They need to be personable. Like, if you want a tip at the end of the service, you've got to be personable.
Yeah.
You've got to connect. You've got to perform. You've got to have everything up here in your head. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to multitask. Quick.
Yeah.
Like time management.
Right.
Like all those things are going to give you a leg up in healthcare.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but actually one of our very good nurses, it used to be a waitress.
Yeah.
And her time management is A1.
Yeah, right? So that actually, like, that was like the very beginning for me, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if we're taught, what about you? Do you have something in mind of like what could give you an advantage, depending on not even depending, but like whatever degree path you choose? Do you think that there's a job outside of what you'd like immediately think, like the CNA thing?
It depends on what they're really wanting to do with their nursing degree. In my opinion, I think like there is something to say about those being a teacher as well, because though nursing is very like hands-on and you do stuff, patients need education.
Yeah.
And if you're able to like relate to people and talk to people and educate people in a way that you would educate students or like children, like sometimes medicine is hard, right? Like it's not the normal like it's not the normal stuff. We have words that are letters long, like just huge words.
It looks like someone just wrote out the alphabet and you're like, wait, what?
Right.
Like medicines.
Yeah, like mycophenolate, like
like what? The patient looks at you like cross-eyed. You're like,
right. And so like you have all of that, and if you're able to, there's a nurse, he was teaching medication, and we give anti-rejection medications, and two specific ones are mycophenolate and tacrolimus. And so their brand names are Cellcept and Prograph, respectively. And so he was teaching, and I was just in the room on the other side talking to my other patient, and he said he was teaching the patient and was like, Cellcept helps your cells accept your...
I like this cheat code.
Right? And so, like, it just was like, oh, that makes sense. And then he was like, Prograph, pro is good. You know, they're the best. They're pro. And so graft is what we do to connect everything together.
Yeah.
So it's good for your graft. And so like he, it just was like, wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, ultimately I think other than waiter and waitressing, which I did not think of until you said, I think I would say being a teacher or in some type of educational role, I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially if you can like break it down like that.
Yeah.
That's so smart. Man, I'm so impressed with that.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, so like on that note about education, like what brought us here into nursing in the first place? A little bit of that. So I was thinking the entire time you were saying that is when I was younger, nursing wasn't the first thing I ever wanted to be. When I was little, I wanted to be a teacher. Like, did you really? Yeah, I did. I really wanted to be a teacher. Huh. And I don't know when that switched for me.
It makes sense.
Yeah. I did say I like to educate.
You do, yeah.
I don't know when that switched for me, but like at some point in high school, I think I just realized like, oh, I think I want to be a nurse. But it also, I like to joke. So the flip side of what I normally say is when people ask me like, oh, how'd you get into nursing? Is that it's the family business. Oh. Because my aunt is a nurse. Right. My uncle is a nurse and a firefighter, paramedic. My mom worked at the nursing homes. Like I said before, she was a social worker in the nursing homes. And then I have another aunt that like is into biology and science. So I think of like healthcare as the family business, which is so corny to say, but I'm like that. Well, the short story is like,
I mean,
yeah, it was just like the biggest example in my life of like what you could do and be successful and have so much variety within one job. And I was like, well, I guess I'll try this. Like, let me throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. Like,
and it did for 10 years.
And it has for 10 years. Yeah. But okay, this is a sidebar, but like my actual like journey, like in nursing school, I had to have told you this before, but
you say that, but I mean, there are things that we have not talked about.
For the audience, I think I'll be so surprised if I haven't told you this before, but like in nursing school, I thought I was going to have to change my major at one point because I was passing out all the time.
Oh, yes, you did tell me about this.
Okay, yeah. So in high school, well, this starts back like in high school, but like I did a lot of volunteering at the hospital, and I was like in the CNA program to like, so you can graduate with that certificate. Mm-hmm. And so we were in the hospital all the time. I had like for a while I thought I wanted to be in women's health. So I used to volunteer on the weekends on the maternity ward, like labor and delivery. And I was watching, this is the first time I ever passed out. I was watching an epidural and I just like fell through the curtain into the hallway, knocked out. And after that, it like created this crazy. It is funny. It is really funny.
Sorry.
The poor lady is like trying to give birth, and then I like fall through a curtain.
They take care of you.
Yeah, now. And this is a small community hospital, so like they ended up putting me in the bed in the room next to her, and I like woke up, and they're like, "Here's some toast, honey." Like I was like, "I'm in a bed." They're like, "You're all right." I'm like, "What the heck?" But that was the first time, but that experience created this like crazy anxiety in me that every time I walked into the hospital, the smell of the hospital, I would pass out. Like all you would have to say is, "We're walking into the hospital."
Done.
And I could walk there. I could walk through those doors. But as soon as I got through the doors, I'd pass out. But I was resilient. Let me tell you, I was like, I'm going to nursing school, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, your first 2 years, well, you may not know, but your first 2 years, if you're taking a traditional like 4-year program for working on your BSN, it's mostly just getting all your prereqs out of the way. So it's like science, English, maths, whatever. So at the end of sophomore year is when we start doing like spring semesters, when you start doing clinical stuff. I'm like, all right, well, I'm in the sim lab. I'm doing fine. I'm like, the sim lab, no anxiety whatsoever.
Doesn't smell like hospital.
Yeah, it doesn't. So my first experience in the hospital, even before then, they were like, you guys are going to go to a nursing home and do patient care there just to get the experience of it. I almost lost my mind.
Really?
I was having so much anxiety. I called the clinical instructor and I was like, I can't come. And she was so straight with me. She said, honey, get in your car and get here. You're going to be fine. But it was the tough love I needed. So I did fine there. I did that day. I was so nervous. I thought I was going to pee my pants. I was like, please don't pass out. Please don't pass out. She taught me so many funny tricks that an old nurse would do. Like,
to not pass out?
No, not even. Oh. I'm just talking about my experience that day in general.
Okay.
She was putting mouthwash in men's hair because they refused to take a bath. And she was like, what? If they smell and they refuse to take a shower, you just put this mouthwash in their hair, honey. And I was like, okay. She's like, it's alcohol. It's antiseptic. And I was just like, I will never do that, but okay. But like, she was telling me all kinds of
I'm never taking a shower ever again.
You want someone to put mouthwash in your hair? But I just remember being like, okay, like this is wild and crazy, but like I'm fine. So then I was like, okay, so when I go to the hospital, like I'll be fine. And we had like a few shadowing experiences spring semester, sophomore year. So my first one, pass out. So bad, pass out. Out. I'm like, so I get there and I'm getting a report with the nurse and I'm starting to get woozy as I'm hearing the rundown of each of these patients. And I'm like, I'm really not feeling well. And she's like, okay. I was like, I might have to leave. So she was like, sits me in this chair that's like counter height kind of stool.
That's a terrible chair.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm just going to go call your nursing instructor for you. And I was like, okay. And I guess as soon as she went around the corner, I passed out, slammed my head off this like marble countertop, land on the ground off this counter height stool. And I come to, they had pulled the code button.
Oh my God.
They like pulled the code switch. There's like 50 people around me. They're getting me on a stretcher.
No way.
Like in a neck brace fully.
No.
First, I had so many CT scans during nursing school from passing out and hitting my head. I probably have like damage from the radiology.
100%.
Like from high school, because of course it happened when I was in high school too. So I was passing out and still going, and they were like, you should so at the end of my sophomore year, they're like, you should consider changing your major.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you could do this. And I was bound and determined. And it was all just an anxiety thing. So I went and got some mental health care.
Because that's important.
Because that's important. And we worked through it. And I was fine. Now look at me 10 years later. But my journey was not easy. Yeah. So what?
But wait.
Okay.
Just a snippet.
Uh-huh.
Is there any like anxiety trick that you could just be like immediate, like for the listeners in the back? You know?
Okay, there's two things that I think really helped me then and really help me now.
Uh-huh.
Guided meditation.
Okay,
and then that's something like you can do on your way to work. Like if you're just having anxiety around work, like you're in your car, there's so many things on YouTube, there's so many apps.
Yeah.
Play a guided meditation.
Right.
Because there have been times, even in my career now, that like I'm driving into work and my anxiety is building, and I just like, especially during COVID, like I was having so much anxiety about going into work, so I would do a guided meditation before I went in.
Mm-hmm.
It just resets your nervous system. But something you can do in the moment is like that 4 square breathing thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you like inhale for 4, hold for 4, blow out for 4, hold for 4.
Yeah.
That also is like it's pushing the restart button on your
Interesting.
sympathetic nervous system. It's regulating yourself. So that like seems silly in the moment, but if you start to feel that anxiety building, go sneak off to the bathroom. Go do some 4 square breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I am very grateful that I am not plagued with anxiety.
Yeah.
I do, there are things that make me anxious and I like worry about, but overall, in terms of anxiety, like that's not something I have to deal with.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to have the opportunity for others to kind of hear, because I can't. Yeah. I cannot help you.
He cannot relate, but I can.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I get it honest. It's a long family line of anxiety.
But it also makes you a very good nurse too, because that's one thing that I appreciate. Like you are anxious about a lot of things. But it's
getting stuff done, so I get it done.
Right.
I'm like, I gotta get it done on my timeline.
Right. Otherwise, I'm just like, you know.
But that's like such a false reality, because like you are a perfectionist. Like you don't get anxious. You just are chill about it, but like you get it. You also just get it done. It's just like, God, we are like polar opposites. But I'll be honest, I have a great mask. Now that I don't pass out at work, nobody knows when I'm anxious.
Yeah, no, yeah.
People think like, and truly, like during like a code situation, I outwardly get so zen. I like slow down, which is so weird. It feels like I slow down, but obviously I'm moving fast. I'm not like I'm not actually like moving in slow motion when I'm coding someone, but I feel like I don't know, I flip a switch. It's actually kind of freaky. Like I flip a switch.
Yeah, I guess really and truly what brought me to medicine in general is just I've always thought it was fascinating. Mm-hmm. I think the human body is just fascinating in itself. When I was younger, I had a couple, there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, the nurses that were taking care of me when I broke, there weren't any that extremely stood out to me. I will say that my neighbor in my hometown was the one that delivered me.
Oh wow!
And so, but I mean, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
and I'm not in labor and delivery at all. But I mean, I don't think I really have a huge like revelation to being in nursing. Mm. It was just. I didn't want to go into medicine because of the red tape. It just
wasn't appealing.
It wasn't appealing. Yeah,
busting your butt for your bachelor's degree.
Right.
Not that nursing degree is easier, but
right.
But it actually is. I mean, in a different way. In terms of
years of schooling. Yes.
Yeah.
Like before, and the bedside. Yes, there are doctors that have great bedside manner. Mm-hmm.
But the care that you wanted to give isn't traditional for a the doctor does. I think that's funny, and I think a lot of people learn that at a weird point. Like people think, and I think largely it's based off like what we perceive or what the media perceives healthcare jobs to be. Mm-hmm. Like you watch a TV show and like the doctor is walking their patient post-op day 0.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been a nurse for 10 years, which is not that long in comparison to a lot of people out there, but I've never once seen the doctor get the patient up the night of their surgery.
Nah.
No. That's nursing staff, honey.
There is a physician assistant that will on our unit.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and it's great.
Yeah, but even that's rare.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like, oh, this is controversial, but sometimes, and physician assistant's different, but I'm thinking more in like PA.
Yeah.
So they practice at the same level, but there's something about the nurse practitioners that forget about where they came from that gets under my skin. Controversial.
Oh my God.
I mean, I love most of, if not all. Yeah, I think I love all of the MPs that I work with directly. They're great. But there's some out there that maybe I don't work directly with that I've been like,
Oh God.
And that could be anywhere.
I've done to plead the fifth.
I've worked in a lot of places, so.
No, yeah, I know. But people know us.
I'm okay with being controversial.
No, that's fair. But that is true though. There are some that do.
There's some mid-level providers that forget where they came from.
Yeah. And a lot of PAs.
You're busy, but if you're not, don't tell me to do something. Then go eat lunch in your office.
Go twiddling your thumbs. Yeah.
Yeah. Go YouTube videos in your office. I saw someone do that once, and I was like,
"Oh
yes.
No,
this is rude."
I'm actually surprised you didn't say something.
It was before I was a grown up.
Okay.
It was before I was a grown up.
I was like, because that would not fly on normal.
Excuse me.
You need to come back.
Come help me.
But we will at one point have a physician assistant come and speak with us. Yeah, I've been working with that already. So
sweet.
Yeah. And I mean, this person I have talked with quite a bit and I know pretty well. So I feel like he will be willing to
give his perspective.
Yeah.
Or his. Is that who?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be interesting, and I think it would be controversial, like you said, and it's gonna be fun. Like I think it'll be.
We could do it in good heart.
Yeah.
Good-heartedness.
He'll ride us, and we'll ride him, and then Yeah.
It's all right. It's all fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
it.
That's it.
We can wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
All right. Class dismissed.
It sure is.
All right. That's a wrap for today's session of Nursing Lyfe 101. We hope you found some useful takeaways to bring back to the floor. Remember, nursing is a lifelong learning journey, and we're here with you.
If you want to connect, find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Nurse Lyfe 101, life with a Y, not an I, or on Facebook at Nursing Lyfe 101.
Sweet. Don't forget to subscribe and share with fellow nurses. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep making some difference out there.